Also, before the video gets started, for those who do not know what the genealogies are, you know that long list of names throughout the Bible that no one likes reading? Yeah, this is what that is. Or me just talking about the genealogies or explaining them to the best of my capability. But on with the video. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be covering every single genealogy in Genesis. But before we do that, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because these videos actually take a really long time to make, and you'd be doing me the biggest favor if you actually did do those things. But without further ado, let's sit here for a while as I explain to you every single genealogy in Genesis. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, hey, what is this new series you're starting? Why are you doing this? Well, the genealogies of the Bible are something that a lot of people have trouble, understanding, especially when you're reading them and, the names become hard to pronounce. So you're just sitting there and being like, oh, he had a son. Oh, he also had a son. His name is... So I thought I might make this series to help people understand the genealogies better. I am going to the best of my ability, going to be telling you every single genealogy in Genesis. So, this is going to be a new series that I hope to, kind of like produce more, and I'm, very happy to start this new series, but, let's go. So, we're going to be doing, it's not going to be, separated genealogies, we're going to talk about all of them. So, first we're going to talk about Adam. Now we're going to talk about Adam. Adam in the Bible was the first ever man created by God. It says that when God created Adam, he formed him from dust and he breathed life into his nostrils. The Bible describes God taking Adam, putting him into the Garden of Eden to both work it and care for it. In the Bible, it's also described that Adam named all of the animals. So he named the livestock, the birds in the sky, the beasts. It doesn't say whether or not those were the same names we call animals today, like cat, dog, bird. Yeah. Basically, we don't know if the names we call animals today were the same names that Adam called them. Which is so funny to think about, like Adam just walking through the garden, sees a bear, he's like, oh, you're a bear now. That's what you look like. You look like your name would be Bear. That's so stupid, dude. What? Not Adam naming the animals, but yeah. It's also described that God put Adam into a deep sleep, and from Adam he took his rib, and from his rib he made the first woman, Eve. Later down the line, mind you, we're not going to get into too much detail about these people because we got to talk about a whole bunch of other people. Yeah. Later down the line, Adam and Eve sinned, disobeying God. This brought sin and death into the world. The Bible tells us that Adam lived to be 930 years old and then he died. Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel. Abel is now no more, which leads us into the next person we're going to be talking about, Cain. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Cain. Cain is the son of Adam and Eve and is additionally or traditionally credited with being the first murderer. In the Bible, Cain kills his brother Abel. God asks Cain where his brother was. Cain responds to God by saying that he didn't know and that if he was his brother's keeper. God, obviously knowing what Cain did, sentences Cain to walk the earth endlessly. Cain, too afraid by this, tells God that someone would try to kill him. God then gives Cain a mark that would protect him from what we know from premature death. Cain would have a son. His name would be Enoch. Now, in the Bible, there are two Enochs, Jared's son and Cain's son. We're talking about Cain's son. Jared's son, Enoch, was the son that was taken up or was taken away by God. This was the Enoch that was taken away by God. That would be Jared's son. Cain's son, the one we're talking about now, wasn't taken by God. That would be Jared's son, okay? Jared's son was taken by God. Cain's son was just Cain's son. We're talking about Cain's son. It's described that Cain knew his wife and she conceived and birth. It says that Cain knew his wife and she bore and conceived Enoch. It's described that Cain built a city and he named it after his son, Enoch. Enoch, he would have a son. His name would be Irad. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Irad. Not a lot because the Bible talks literally nothing about Irad other than his father and his son. Yeah, But Irad would have a son. His name would be, and I'm probably not going to pronounce this good, Mehujael, Mehujael. I think that's his name. That is his name. I just don't know how to pronounce it. Again, talks nothing about him. He has a son. His name would be Mehujael had a son. His name would be Methushael. Again, just like his father, talks nothing about him. But he would have a son. His name would be Lamech. Now, there are two Lamechs in the Bible. One of them was a descendant of Seth. The other is a descendant of Cain. We're talking about the one that is a descendant of Cain. Lamech, from what we know, he was the first polygamist. Yeah. On scripture recorded, Lamech is the first polygamist. He had two wives, Adai and Zillah. He had several children, and their names were Adai bore Jabal and his brother Jubal. Zillah, or Zillah, however you say her name, bore Tubal-Cain and his sister Naamah. It says that in the Bible, Lamech was proudly confessed to his wives about killing a young man that harmed him. Or he proudly confessed to his wives of killing a young man that wounded him. It also says that if Cain's vengeance was sevenfold, Lamech's was 77 folds. But he had a son, his name would be Jabal. Now, in the Bible, he is described as being the father of those who dwell in tents and raise livestock. But Jabal has a brother who is also the son of Lamech. His name is Jubal. He is the brother of Jabal and the other son of Lamech, and he is the brother to Jabal. He is described as being the father of all who play lyre and pipes. Lamech also had another son. His name was Tubal-Cain. He is the son of Lamech and kin to Jabal and Jubal. Jabal and Jubal, they're two different people, yeah. Zillah, one of the two wives of Lamech, had a son. His name was Tubal-Cain. Tubal-Cain is described as being the instructor of every craftsman of iron and bronze. He's described as being the instructor of every craftsman of bronze and iron. Now we're going to talk about his sister, Naamah. Naamah is the sister of Tubal-Cain and the daughter of Zillah. Zillah is also the mother of Tubal-Cain. Tubal-Cain and Naamah are brother and sister. Okay, now that was Cain's descendants, so it's short, but it's like a little line or a little family line of Cain. Yeah, that was the genealogy of Cain. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Seth to Noah, or Adam to Noah, but it didn't include Seth. Seth to Noah, yes. So this genealogy starts off with Adam. I already explained Adam. Adam was the first man. From his rib, God created the first woman, Eve. Later down the line, they sinned against God. And Cain kills Abel. But when Cain killed Abel, Adam and Eve had another son. His name was Seth. It doesn't really talk about Seth. Also, I should go ahead and say this. Later down the line, the genealogies of the Bible are a lot like, oh, he had a son. Okay, he had a son. Oh, he had a son. A lot of the genealogies of the Bible are just that. Yeah. But Seth had a son. His name was Enosh. Seth fathered Enosh when he was 105 years old, and he had a lifespan of 912 years. But he had a son, his name was Enosh. Now, Enosh was the son of Seth. His lifespan was 905 years old, but before he died, he had a son, his name was Kenan. It's also described that during this time, this was a time of which people began to call on the name of the Lord. But Enosh had a son, his name was Kenan. When Enosh fathered Kenan, some Bible translation says he was either 90 or 99 years old. It describes Kenan's lifespan was 910 years old, but before he died, he had a son. His name was Mahalalel. When Kenan was 70 years old, he fathered Mahalalel. It says that his lifespan was 895 years old, Mahalalel was. But Mahalalel would have a son. His name was Jared. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he fathered Jared. Also, from Adam to Noah or from Seth to Noah, it doesn't talk much about them. It only talks about, okay, he had a son, this was the age of which he fathered his son, and this is the age or his lifespan, and then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he fathered Enoch. He lived, or his lifespan was 962 years old. Jared was, his lifespan was 962. But before Jared died, he would have a son. His name would be Enoch. Enoch would have a son. His name would be Methuselah. By the way, there are two Enochs. One was taken by God, or one was Cain's son. The other was Jared's son. We're talking about Jared's son, the one that was taken by God. It's also described that when Enoch was 65 years old, he fathered Methuselah. In total lifespan, Enoch had a lifespan of 365 years old, or years of age, 365 years old, which compared to his ancestors, he was fairly young. His lifespan, he was fairly young. But Enoch lived to be 800. Enoch lived to be 365 years old, which compared to his ancestors was fairly young. Also, in the Bible, it says that Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more because God had took him. A lot of people interpret this as Enoch didn't die, but God took him somewhere. Mind you, it doesn't explicitly and specifically say, oh, Enoch didn't die, God actually just took him away to somewhere. It says, the Bible says that God took Enoch, it doesn't say that he died. But yeah, there you go. But Enoch had a son, his name was Methuselah. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old, which, from what the Bible is saying, is the longest living human. Yeah. But he had a son, his name would be Lamech. Lamech had a son, his name was Noah. It's described that Lamech lived to be 777 years old, but he had a son, his name would be Noah. In the Bible, it's described that Noah was a righteous man, and he was blameless, and he also walked with God. Noah was 600 years old when the flood happened, or when the great flood happened. But yeah, Noah was 600 years old when the flood happened. God had told Noah to build an ark. Noah built an ark, and in the ark, he placed animals inside of the ark. He took his wife, his sons, and his sons' wives into the ark. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the Table of Nations. Now, the Table of Nations follows the lines of Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Basically, it follows the lines and descendants of these three, or the three that are Noah's sons. Also, the Table of Nations, a lot of the names aren't really talked about beyond of the genealogy. Like, there are some names, it'll say a name, but then the Bible doesn't really talk much about that name. Or they have no personal details, no story, yeah. But we're still going to talk about them nonetheless. We're going to talk about the sons of Japheth, or Japheth, yeah. We're going to talk about the line of Japheth. So, to give you an example, it would be like this, you know. But here are the sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshesh, and Tyrus. But the Bible, beyond of like these names, talks nothing about them. But Gomer, or Gomer, however you say his name, he was a son of Japheth, and here are his sons. Here are the sons of Gomer: Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmaz. Or Togarmaz, however you say their names. These were the sons of Gomer, but the Bible doesn't talk anything about them. Here are the sons of Javan. Javan was one of the sons of Japheth. Elisha was one of his sons, but it talks nothing about him. Tarshish, he was one of the sons of... Tarshish was one of the sons of Javan. The name Tarshish is connected to trading and ships. Or the name Tarshish is connected with ships and trading, or trading and ships. Also, in the book of Jonah, Prophet Jonah, or the Prophet Jonah, he fled to Tarshish, which implies later down the line that Tarshish is a place. Prophet Jonah fled to a place, or he fled unto a place called Tarshish. From what we can gather, Tarshish is also a place. Kittim, yes, Kittim, not kitten, Kittim, he was one of the sons of Javan. In the Bible, Kittim is used as a name for an island and the coastal people. Is a name for island and coastal people. Kittim in the Bible is also described as a place. Like, it says stuff like ships will come from the coast of Kittim. Dodanim is also one of the sons of Javan. In some translations, he's called Rodanim. It doesn't talk anything about him other than he was one of the sons of Javan. Okay, now we're going to talk about the descendants of Ham. Mind you, this is all within the tables of nation, or the table of nations. But we're going to be talking about the descendants of Ham. Now, from what the Bible tells us, Ham had 4 sons. These sons were Cush, that was one of his sons' names. Put, Canaan, and Mizraim, which was just Egypt. We're going to talk a little bit about Cush. Cush was the first son of Ham. He also had a son. His name was Nimrod, but we're going to talk about him later. There's also a group in the Bible. They're called the Cushites. These people are descendant of Cush. Mizraim, which means Egypt, was one of the 12 sons. What? Mizraim was one of the sons of Ham. It doesn't talk a lot about him, but it does mention his kids. We'll talk about them later. Put was also one of the sons of Ham. Doesn't talk much about him either. And then there's Canaan. Canaan was the 4th son of Ham. Canaan is listed as the father of a bunch of nations. Canaan's descendants are listed in a land that was later to be known as Canaan. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the descendants of Cush. Mind you, we're still in the table of nations. The descendants of Cush were Zebah, Havilah, Zabta, Reama, Zabtesha, Sheba, Didon, and Nimrod. It talks literally nothing about any of them, except for Nimrod. It does give a little story to him. Nimrod was known as the earth's first mighty man and a hunter before the Lord. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the descendants of Mizraim. Mizraim also means Egypt. His descendants were Ludhim. My pronunciation is terrible. Also, my pronunciation skills are not good, so if I mispronounce any of these names, I'm sorry, I'm bad at pronunciating. But his descendants were Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Nephthalim, Patharusim, and Caslahim. Caslim, it's described that the Philistines came from him, and that he is the ancestor of the Philistines. And then Caphtorim. Other than that, it doesn't talk much about them. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Sidon. Sidon is described as being Canaan's firstborn. Sidon represents one of the Canaanite nations. Other than that, it doesn't talk a whole lot about him. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Heth. Heth was the 2nd son of Canaan. Heth represents the Hittites among the Canaanite nations. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the Jebusites. The Jebusites are descendants of Canaan. Also, they're not named after anybody. They're just called that. Here are the descendants of Canaan. So there are Sidon, Heth, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sidonites, the Arvadites, the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. The Bible doesn't really talk about much about them either. Doesn't really have a whole bunch of detail about them. Yeah. It doesn't talk a lot about the descendants of Canaan, only that, they're the descendants of Canaan. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the descendants of Shem. Elam was the first son of Shem. Doesn't talk a lot about him. Asher was the 2nd son of Shem. Arphaxad was the 3rd son of Shem. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I'm probably saying his name wrong. Arphaxad was the 3rd son of Shem. Doesn't talk much about him either. Lud was the 4th son of Shem, and Aram was the 5th son of Shem. I just want to go ahead and say this. Mind you, I am not skipping over detail. The Bible talks nothing about these people other than they were descendants of this person. Okay, he had a son. It's just a whole lot of that. It doesn't really go into detail about these people. If it did, I tell you, I have no problem going into detail. I've explained the entire Bible to you. You should know that I have no problem going into detail. It also shows the descendants of Axpharad and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. It doesn't talk much about him. Big surprise, huh? The descendants of Axpharad were Ebar and Shelah, or Shelah and Ebar. Basically, Axpharad had descendants. Their names were Shelah and Eber. Shelah is the son of Axpharad or Arphaxad, however you say his name. Ebar is one of the sons of Axpharad, is traditionally credited with being the ancestor of the Hebrews. But Ebar or Eber also has descendants. Here they are. Peleg and Joktan. Peleg was the son of Eber. Eber was the son of Arphaxad or Abkrapad. Peleg was the son of Eber. Eber was the son of Apraxashad. Or however you say his name. He lived in a time, or from what scripture says, he lived in a time of which the earth was divided. Joktan was also the son of Eber. Joktan fathered many sons who then became nations. Also, my pronunciation skills are very terrible, so if I mispronounce any of these names, I'm sorry. But here are the descendants of Joktan: Almadad, Shalif, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Abal, Abimael, Zeba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. Or Jobab. And yeah, it doesn't talk much about them either. And yeah, that was the Table of Nations. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Shem to Abraham. Shem was one of the 3 sons of Noah. After the flood, the Bible describes that the whole world would be populated, or would basically repopulate from these 3 sons of Noah. Shem was the son of Noah. He fathered his son Apraxashad when he was 100 years old. He fathered his son Apraxashad 2 years after the flood. But Shem had a son, his name would be Apraxashad. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Apraxashad. Now, in some translations, his name is Apraxashad, and in other translations, his name is Arphaxad. It's basically talking about the same person. This dude was born 2 years after the flood. He lived 35 years before he fathered his son, Shelah. His lifespan was 438 years. It doesn't talk much about him, other than his dad, his son, the age of which he fathered his son, and his lifespan. It doesn't talk much about him. But before he would die, he would have a son. His name would be Shelah. Shelah lived 30 years, or was 30 years old, when he fathered his son, Eber. His lifespan was 433 years old. It gives us no extra details about Shelah, other than he had a son. His name was Eber. Eber was 34 years old when he fathered his son, Peleg. Eber lived to be 464 years old. But other than that, the Bible doesn't really talk much about him. But before he would die, he would have a son. His name would be Peleg. He lived in a time, or from what scripture says, he lived in a time of which when the earth was divided. Peleg lived 30 years before he fathered his son, Reu. Reu was 32 years old before he fathered his son, Serug. Reu's total lifespan was 239 years, and then he died. Serug had lived 30 years before fathering his son, Nahor. Serug's total lifespan was 230 years old, but he had a son. His name would be Nahor. The Bible doesn't talk much about him. Nahor lived 29 years before fathering his son, Terah. Nahor's lifespan was 148 years. Nahor had a son. His name was Terah. Now, Terah had 3 kids. Abraham, or at the time Abram, God hadn't changed his name yet. So it was Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now, in the Bible, or from what we're talking about right now, there are 2 Nahors. One was Terah's father, and the other was Terah's son and Abraham's brother. But Terah would have a son. His name would be Abraham. Now, Abraham in the Bible, God told Abraham to leave his home and his father's household. And basically, later down the line, God tells Abraham that he will give Abraham a great name, and he will make Abraham into a great nation. And I'm quoting God, whoever blesses Abraham, he will bless them. Whoever curses whoever curses Abraham, he will curse them. He also tells Abraham that he will have as many descendants as the stars. And yeah, that was Shem to Abraham. Are you having fun? I hope you are. I love you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Terah's family. In the Bible, Terah is the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. It doesn't talk a whole lot about him, but it does say that in Joshua chapter 24 verse 2, that he served other gods. Tradition says that Terah was an idol worshiper, or some interpretation says he was an idol worshiper. In Joshua chapter 24 verse 2, it says that he served other gods. So I guess by technicality, that makes him an idol worshiper. But Terah would have a son. His name would be Abraham. God tells Abraham to leave his father's house. God promises to make Abraham's name great, to make him into a great nation, and later down the line says he will have as many descendants as there are stars in the sky, or something between the lines of that, and bless or curse people depending or based on how they treat Abraham. Terah also had another son, Abraham's brother, Nahor. Nahor marries his niece or his brother's daughter. His niece, yeah, Haran's daughter. Yeah. Genesis chapter 22, verse 20 through 21 actually lists his 8 sons, which were Uz, Buz, Kemuel, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Later on, he has 4 more kids with a concubine named Reuma. Or Reuma? Is that? I don't know, however you say her name. Terah also had another son. His name was Haran. Haran dies in Ur while Terah is still alive. That's all we got. No drama, no details. But before he died, he had a son. His name was Lot. But yeah, before Haran died, he had a son. His name was Lot. Lot is Abraham's nephew. He settled in Sodom, which goes as well as you would expect it to. God plans to destroy the city. Abraham bargains with God. But Sodom burns. Lot's wife looks back, gets turned into salt. Then his biological daughters get him drunk, sleep with him to preserve the family line. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Milcah, or Milcah, however you say her name. Milcah is Nahor's wife and Haran's daughter. She has kids. That's her biblical footprint. No drama, no stories, just that. Yeah. Iscah was a part of Terah's family. She's only mentioned once. That's about it. Sarai, her name is Sarah, but at the time her name was Sarai. Sarai was the wife of Abraham. The Bible describes that Sarah was barren, meaning she couldn't have kids. And later, or of which this was happening, Sarah gives Abraham permission to sleep with an Egyptian slave named Hagar. And later down the line, God blesses Sarah and she has a kid. His name is Isaac. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Bethuel. He was the son of Nahor and Milcah. He was the father of Rebekah and Laban. When Abraham's servant comes looking for a wife for Isaac, Bethuel is present, but he's mostly silent. Laban does most of the talking, and Rebekah makes the choice. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Laban. Jacob worked 7 years for Laban's daughter, Rachel. Laban swaps her out for Leah and then makes Jacob work another 7 years to marry Rachel. So Jacob ended up with 2 wives. But Laban tells Jacob that if he worked for him for another 7 years, that he would give him Rachel next week. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Nahor's descendants. Nahor with his wife Milcah, or Milcah, however you say her name, they had... Milcah was his wife and she was the daughter of Haran. She's also Nahor's niece, but they would have 8 sons. Uz, Buz, Kemuel, father of Aram, Kesad, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, Bethuel, father of Rebekah. Bethuel, father of Rebekah. Now I'm going to say this again just in case, okay? They had 8 sons. Uz, Buz, Kemuel was the father of Aram, Kesad, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, Bethuel was the father of Rebekah, Bethuel was the father of Rebekah. He also had 4 other sons with his concubine. Her name was Reuma, if I'm saying her name right. She was his concubine. They had 4 sons, and their names were Teba, Gaham, Tahash, and Makah. And beyond of them just being descendants of Nahor, it doesn't talk much about them. But yeah, other than being descendants of Nahor, it doesn't really talk much about them. We're also going to talk a little bit about Lot's descendants. So yeah, here we go. Lot's daughters got him drunk and then proceeded to have intercourse with him, and then they had kids. One of the daughters had Moab, which is the ancestor of the Moabites. Moab is the ancestor of the Moabites. And the other had a son. His name was Ben-Ami. He was the ancestor of the Ammonites. But yeah, that's about it. Yep. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Abraham's descendants. Now, Abraham had a list of different sons with 3 different women. These 3 different women were Hagar, Sarah, and Keturah. The first son Abraham had biblically was Ishmael. Ishmael would then go on to have 12 sons. I'm going to read off to you his 12 sons. Mind you, my pronunciation skills are very terrible. So if I mess anything up, I'm sorry. His 12 sons were Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Mesa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. The Bible doesn't really talk much about Ishmael's 12 sons other than the fact that they were his sons and lists their names. But other than that, it doesn't really talk much about them. Mind you, Abraham had his son Ishmael with a Egyptian slave, Hagar. Sarah was barren and she had gave Abraham permission to sleep with the Egyptian slave or the maid, Hagar. And then Abraham had a son with Sarah. His name was Isaac. Isaac then had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, but we're going to talk about them after this. After Sarah died, Abraham had some kids with a woman named Keturah, if I'm saying her name right. It's talked about whether or not Keturah was a wife of Abraham or she was a slave or a concubine. But these are the sons that Abraham had with Keturah: Zimron, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shual. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Ishmael, or I'm gonna kind of give you a little idea on who he is. Now, in the Bible, it is described that Sarah was barren, meaning that she could not have children. And she gives permission to Abraham to sleep with an Egyptian slave named Hagar. Abraham and Hagar, they have a son. His name is Ishmael. Later, God blessed Sarah, and Abraham and Sarah had a son. His name was Isaac, the child of promise. As Isaac grew, Sarah saw that Ishmael mocked Isaac. This made her worried about Isaac's inheritance. She then tells Abraham that Hagar and Ishmael had to leave. Abraham, kind of like saddened by this, doesn't want Ishmael to leave because he loves Ishmael. So not knowing what to do, he goes to God about it. God then tells Abraham to listen to Sarah and that Isaac was the heir of the promise. He then tells Abraham that Ishmael would go on to be a great nation, or he would make Ishmael a great nation. Hagar and Ishmael then end up in a desert. Ishmael was about to die of dehydration, and Hagar did not know what to do. An angel of God came down, or an angel, and showed them to a well of water, and Ishmael did not die. So that kind of gives you a little bit on who Ishmael is and a little bit about his story. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Isaac. God came to Sarah and told her, mind you, Sarah is the wife of Abraham, or was the wife of Abraham, and God comes to Sarah and says that she is going to have a child and to name him Isaac. Sarah laughed at the idea of her having children. This was because Sarah was old, way past having children, or way past the age of having children. God then asked Sarah why she laughed, or why did she laugh. Sarah then explained, I'm old, I cannot have children. And then she had a son. His name was Isaac. Many years later, as Isaac grew, to test Abraham, God would then test Abraham. He would tell Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. Abraham then takes Isaac to a mountain of which he is going to sacrifice him on. God gives him a ram instead to sacrifice the ram instead of Isaac. So yeah, that gives you an idea on who Isaac is. Now we're going to talk about Isaac's line, or Esau and Jacob. He only had 2 sons. God had told Rebekah that 2 nations were growing in her womb, or were in her womb. These nations were a pair of twins. God then told Rebekah that the older will serve the younger, and that they were twins. Esau in the Bible, one of the twins, is described as being strong, and he was also described as being a hunter. Esau had a birthright, and this birthright was basically that he would get leadership of the family and that he would get double of his father's estate, Isaac. Jacob also wanted this birthright. Now, I'm not going to get too much into detail. I'm just going to tell you what you need to know. Jacob wanted to steal his brother's birthright, and with the help of his mother, he was going to do that. Basically, at the time of which this was happening, Isaac was really old and he was blind, and Esau was out hunting. So Jacob took this time and tricked his dad. He tricked him into giving him Esau's birthright. Mind you, so no one forgets, Jacob and Esau, their dad is Isaac. In the Bible, it describes that Jacob disguised his hands so they would feel more like Esau's. Isaac was thinking to himself that this is the voice of Jacob, but these are the hands of Esau. And then Jacob successfully steals his brother's birthright. After this happened and Esau found out that Jacob had stolen his birthright, Yeah, he wanted to kill Jacob for that. Now, Jacob was basically forced to leave his home so Esau didn't kill him. And Jacob has a dream, and in the dream, he sees angels going up and down a ladder. Later on, Jacob meets a girl. Her name is Rachel. He wants to marry this girl, Rachel. And her father was named Laban, so this is basically how it went down. Jacob had wanted to marry Rachel, but Laban had told Jacob that he had to work for him for 7 years. After Jacob had worked for Laban for 7 years, he wanted to marry Rachel. He did marry someone, but it wasn't Rachel. Laban had tricked Jacob into marrying his first daughter, Leah. Jacob, upset by this, goes to Laban and is like, yo, you gave me the wrong daughter. Laban then responds to him by saying that it was tradition for the first daughter to get married first, and then tells Jacob that if he worked for him for another 7 years, he would give him Rachel next week. And then Jacob ended up with 2 wives, Leah and Rachel. Now, it's described that Jacob had children with 4 different women, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah. Or Bilhah and Zilpah, however you say their names. But Jacob would go on to have 12 different sons. And here were their sons. So the first son was someone named Reuben. He was Jacob's firstborn. He was the son of Leah. And the second son was Simeon. He was the son of Leah. He was known for his violent actions in Shechem. And 3, Levi. Levi was also the son of Leah. He was the ancestor of the priestly Levites. And number 4, we have Judah. He was the son of Leah. He was the ancestor of King David and ultimately Jesus. At number 5, we have Dan. He was the son of Bilhah. Bilhah was Rachel's maidservant. And then we have Naphtali. Naphtali was the son of Bilhah. Gad was the son of Zilpah, Leah's maidservant. Asher was the son of Zilpah. Issachar was the son of Leah. Zebulun was the son of Leah. And Joseph was the son of Rachel. He was known for his coat of many colors and Risen. He was also the prime minister of Egypt. And the 12th son was Benjamin. He was the son of Rachel, Jacob's youngest. In all, these are 12 sons. Or in all, Jacob had 12 sons. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Esau's genealogy or Esau's descendants. So here were Esau's wives. Adai, she was daughter of Elon the Hittite. Ohobilama, she was the daughter of Anna, granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. And then there was Basemath. She was the daughter of Ishmael, sister of Nebaioth. Esau would then go on to have sons. Also, my pronunciation is terrible, so I'm sorry. Esau would then go on to have sons. Eliphaz, his mother was Adai or Ada, however you say her name. Reuel had a mother, her name was Basemath. Jerush, Jalam, and Korah, their mother was Oholibamah. Esau would then have grandsons, so these are the grandsons of Esau. Through Eliphaz, there was Teman, Omar, Zephoth, Gatam, and Kenaz. Amalek via concubine Timnah, through Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shemoth, and Mizah. Now, these are the chiefs or dukes from Esau's lines. So the chiefs from Eliphaz, Chief Timnah, Chief Omar, Chief Zepho, Chief Kenaz, Chief Korah, Chief Gatam, and Chief Amalek. These are the chiefs from Reuel. Chief Nahath, Chief Zerah, Chief Shammah, and Chief Mizah. Yeah. Now, these are the chiefs from Oholibamah, if that's how you say her name. Chief Jeush, Chief Jalam, and Chief Korah. These were the chiefs of Edom, Harite clans that absorbed into Edomite culture. Also, it's worth mentioning that Esau is the ancestor of the Edomites, or the father of the Edomites, or the father of Edom. But these were the sons of Seir the Horite. Latan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezar, and Dishon. These are the sons of Lotan. Harai, Henmam, Tinma, Lotan's sister. And these are the sons of Shobal. Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onnan. Or Onnam. Yeah. These are the sons of Zibeon. Anaiah, or Aiah, and Anai. The one who found the hot springs. Anai is the one who found the hot springs. The children of Anah. Dishon and Ohamabala. Yes, again, possibly a clan name here. These are the sons of Dishon. Hemdan, Eshban, Ithron, and Cheron. Here are the sons of Ezer. Bilhan, Zeavan, Acon. Here are the sons of Dishon, Uz, and Aran. And here is the final list of the Edomite chiefs. Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, or Jeheth, or Jetheth, or however you say these names. Ohamabala, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. What are these names, dude? But yeah, that was Esau's genealogy, or Esau's descendants. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Jacob's genealogy, or Jacob's genealogy into Egypt. First, we have Jacob, Israel. He is the patriarch of the family. God renamed him Israel, and he is the father of 12 sons who became the tribes, or he is the father of the 12 sons who then became the 12 tribes of Israel. Genesis chapter 46, verse 8, these are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Jacob, or who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his household. At number 2, we have Reuben's family. Reuben was the oldest son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. At number 3, we have Simeon's family. Simeon was the second son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul. Shaul was the son of a Canaanite woman. At number 4, we have Levi's family. Levi was the third son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. At number 5, we have Judah's family. Judah was the fourth son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. At number 6, we have Issachar's family. Issachar was the fifth son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Tola, Puah, Jashub, and Shimron. At number 7, we have Zebulun's family. Zebulun was the sixth son of Jacob and Leah. His sons were Zered, Elon, and Jaleel, or Jaleel, depending on how you say his name. At number 8, we have Gad's family. Gad was the son of Jacob and Zilpah, Leah's maid. His sons were Zivion, Haggai, Shunai, Esbon, Eri, Ari, and Ser. At number 9, we have Asher's family. Asher was the son of Jacob and Zilpah. His sons were Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and Sarah, or Sarah, depending on how you say her name, was their sister. At number 10, we have Naphtali's family. Naphtali was the son of Jacob and Bilhah, or Bilhah. Bilhah was Rachel's maid. His sons were Jaziel, Guni, or Gunai, however you say his name, Jazir, and Shillem. At number 11, we have Joseph's family. Joseph was the son of Jacob and Rachel. He also became second in command of Egypt, or like the prime minister. His sons were Manasseh and Ephraim. At number 12, we have Benjamin's family. Benjamin was the youngest son of Jacob and Rachel. His sons were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gerah, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. And yeah, that was every single genealogy in Genesis. Did you like the video? I just hit my camera. But yeah, that was every single genealogy in Genesis. Yeah, we've been sitting here for a while. We've just been sitting here for a while talking about genealogies in Genesis, or every single genealogy in Genesis. Mind you, I also want to make this apparent. This is covering or explaining or just talking about every single genealogy in Genesis. And if it is not a genealogy, we won't be talking about it. But yeah, I would like to make this into a series. But I want to go ahead and say this. If a book of the Bible does not have a genealogy in it, we won't be talking about it. We will only be talking about books of the Bible that have genealogies in them. But I kind of want to make this series so people can kind of understand the genealogies better. But yeah, thank you. If you made it this far, comment pancake. Only real ones will comment pancake. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the videos. We hit 103,000 subscribers. God's great, baby! Thank you guys so much for the support. All praise to Lord Jesus. But yeah, thank you. But yeah, I feel like that's about it. I thank you, I love you, and God bless.